So now let's begin with our unit 4 of our subject application of AI in business. So unit 4 for the subject is cloud platforms for IoT. In the previous unit, we have understood that what is IoT. IoT means Internet of Things. So in this particular unit, we will be talking about the cloud platforms for IoT. So the basic contents of this unit are, first of all, we will be discussing what is virtualization, the concept of virtualization and cloud architecture. Next, we will be understanding that what is cloud computing. Next, our topic here would be the benefits of cloud computing. Next, we will be discussing the various cloud services which are provided to us, which are SaaS, PaaS and IaaS. Later on in this unit, we will understand that what do we mean by cloud provider and the offerings of them. Then we will study about some IoT cloud platforms. Later on, at the end, we will understand that what do we mean by Think, Speak, API and MQTT. Later on, we will be talking about interfacing the ESP8266 with the web services. So these are the basic content of our unit 4. So let us start with the very first topic, that is virtualization. See, virtualization, it is coming from the word virtual. Virtual means something which is not real, which is not actual, but we are creating it virtually. So virtualization, it is just coming from that word only. It is the creation of a virtual rather than the actual version of something. Now, since we are talking about this virtualization concept in artificial intelligence, so what we are trying to do, we are trying to create some server, some desktop, some storage device, some operating system or some network resource virtually using the concept of virtualization. So what is virtualization actually? The creation of virtual version of something such as the server, the desktop, any storage device, any operating system or the network resources. Virtualization, it is a technique which allows to share a single physical instance of a resource or an application among multiple customers and organizations. So we have a single physical instance of something, but we are sharing it among multiple people, among multiple organizations. So that is what the concept of virtualization is. How does it happen? It does this by assigning a logical name to a physical storage and providing a pointer to that physical resource when demanded. Let us consider an example for this concept of virtualization. Suppose there is a big organization, we can say. Then we have a single printer at one place. Now, this printer has to be shared among various departments of the organization. Finance department, marketing department, accounting department, all of these people, they share a single printer. So this single printer, it is acting as a resource, and the instance of this resource, it will be provided to all the people of different departments. Since being it a small organization, the availability of printer is less. So in that case, what we are trying to do, we are providing a logical name to this physical storage device, which is our printer. And all the people in the organization, they can use the same printer, seeing or considering that they have their own resource available for them. So that is what happens in virtualization. Another example of virtualization can be like if you have a laptop and you face some problem related to the hardware, related to the operating system of it, So one option is to for you to take it directly to that hardware person and get it rectified. Another option is to virtually provide the access of your operating system to the person who can repair your laptop. So the you are sitting at some remote place, the person who is going to rectify your problem is sitting at some other place, and he will take virtual access onto your system. He will view your entire system virtually without being physically present there, or without the laptop being taken to him physically. He gets virtual access to it, and seeing all the contents of your operating system, he rectifies your problem. So that is what happens in virtualization. We create something virtual. We create something virtually, some version of something virtually. That is what happens in the virtualization concept. So virtualization, basically it is a technique which allows us to share a single instance of our resource among multiple people of the organization. We have a single resource, it can be shared by number of persons, assuming that they all of them have that particular resource available for them. Now, creation of a virtual machine over the existing operating system and the hardware, it is called hardware virtualization. Important term here is hardware virtualization. What is hardware virtualization? The creation of a virtual machine over the existing operating system and the hardware. This is known as hardware virtualization. A virtual machine, it provides an environment that is logically separated from the underlying hardware. Whatever hardware it is available for yourself. So a virtual machine, it provides an environment which is logically separate from that underlying hardware. So the machine on which the virtual machine is going to be created, that is known as a host machine, and the virtual machine, it is referred to as the guest machine. So there are two important terms again here which we normally use when we talk about this concept of virtualization: host machine and the guest machine. Host machine is a machine on which the virtual machine is going to be created. That is going to be the host on which you are going to create a virtual machine. And virtual machine which is being created at that machine, that will be referred to as the guest machine. So we normally consider two terms when we define this concept of virtualization: host machine and the guest machine. Now we are going to talk about the concept of virtualization in cloud computing. Nowadays this cloud computing, this concept has become very famous, but this concept of cloud computing, it is possible only with the concept of virtualization. Virtualization, it plays a very important role in the cloud computing technology. Normally in cloud computing, what happens? Users, they share the data present onto the clouds, like their application, etc. But actually, with the help of virtualization, they share the infrastructure also. With the help of virtualization, what happens? The people who are using this cloud computing concept, they not only share the various application, the software application, but actually they share the infrastructure or the hardware part also with the help of concept of virtualization. In virtualization, the server and the software application which are required by the cloud providers, they are maintained by a third party. And in this, the cloud provider, it pays some amount to the third party. So in the concept of virtualization, we have the server and the software application which are required by the cloud provider. They want some particular server where the data is going to be placed. They want certain software applications. It is required by the cloud provider. And this server and these software application, they are going to be maintained by a third party. And in this case, what happens? The cloud provider, they are not actually having all these resources. They are using these resources from a third party, and in return they are paying some amount to this third party. It is done because it will be very costly if a new version of an application is released and it has to be introduced to the customer. So for the cloud provider also, every day nowadays new and new versions of the applications are being created. Every year we come up with a new version of, let us say, MS Office itself. We get new versions of Windows. So every time it is not possible to purchase such costly versions by the providers. So what do? That is why they need this third party, because it is very costly whenever a new version of an application is released, and this new version, it has to be introduced to the customer. So it becomes very difficult for the cloud provider to purchase all these new versions. So what do? They actually hire a third party which will do this purpose, and in return what do? They provide them some amount in return of it. So virtualization, the concept of virtualization, we are going to actually use in this concept of cloud computing. Virtualization, as we have seen, we are creating a virtual machine. So that is what is the basic need for cloud computing. Cloud computing, the word cloud, it refers to the servers that are exist over the internet, and the software and the databases that run on those servers. Cloud servers here, they are located in data centers all over the world. It is a technology that uses remote servers on the internet to store, to manage, and to access the data online rather than the local drives. Today you must be knowing, you must be listening to this concept of cloud. That's something, if you have some data, people say we have stored it onto the cloud. So cloud it was, every time, since we have now so much of data generating all the time, all the organization, they need to analyze this data for the betterment of their making better decisions for the organization. So every time it is not possible for them to purchase so many local drives to store all this data. So what do? They store this data on some remote servers which are being provided to them by the cloud providers, and they can access their data from that place. So the cloud, actually here it refers to the servers that can be accessed over the internet, and the software and the databases that run on those servers. That is what the term cloud means. Now the data that is stored, it can be anything. It can be our simple files, it can be our images, some documents, some audios, videos, and more. Anything and everything you can store onto the cloud. Cloud is something, refers to something, servers which can be accessed over the internet, which are not in our local surrounding. They are placed remotely, and we are placing our data there, and whenever we require, we can access the data from those clouds. Now cloud computing, it is the on demand availability of the computer system resources, especially the data storage and computing power, without direct active management by the user. Now there is a particular user who is using this service of cloud computing. So cloud computing is providing it what? It is the on demand availability of the computer system resources. All the organization, they cannot afford to have so many storage devices for storing so much of data. They may not be having so much space for storing their files, their audios, videos. So what do? They uh, contact to the cloud provider and store their data onto the clouds. And what is cloud computing there then? Cloud computing is the on demand availability of these resources, and especially here the data storage and the computing power. Here, without the direct active management by the users, the resources will be managed. His data can be stored without his direct management of those things. So cloud computing, it is the on demand availability of the computer system resources without direct active management by the user. Now there are some of the operation which we can do using the cloud computing? First of all, we can develop the new applications and services. Since we have here no restriction on the amount of data, we have no restriction on the how many applications are available to us. We can access any and any application, any and any service from the cloud. So using these applications, using these services, we can generate new applications, we can generate new services for our organization, for our softwares. So that is one operation that we can do using the cloud computing. Second, the most important thing, we can obviously do the storage, the backup of our data, and we can recover the data using the cloud computing. Definitely, we can store our data onto the clouds. If some data is lost into the organization, the data, if it is stored onto the cloud, we can anytime take backup from there. We can recover our data from the clouds. So that is another operation that can be done using the cloud computing. Then hosting the blogs and the website. Today, this has become a very common trend to host the blogs, to host new websites. So this becomes very easy with the help of cloud computing. Then delivery of software on demand. Since the cloud providers, they can provide us with all kind of softwares that we need. If we are trying to develop some application, if we're trying to develop some new module, new thing for ourselves, so that we require some software, so that can be delivered to us using this cloud computing concept, sitting anywhere in this world. Then another operation that can be done using the cloud computing is analysis of data. We can easily analyze our data that is required for our organization because we have stored all the data onto the clouds. So analysis of data, it becomes very easy when we are using this cloud computing concept. Then streaming of videos and audios, it can be done using the cloud. We nowadays many applications, various apps, they are using this concept of cloud computing for streaming their videos, for streaming their audios. So this can also be done with the help of cloud computing concepts. Some of the operation which can be done using cloud computing are: we can develop new application and services, we can keep storage, backup and recovery of our data, we can host the blogs and websites using our cloud computing concept, we can do delivery of software on demand using the concept of cloud computing, we can analyze our data using this cloud computing concept, and we can also stream the various videos and audios using the concept of cloud computing.